Hi everyone and welcome to our webinar, the 10 things we want you to know about the new NFC Forum CR12 test specification. My name is Stefan Czech. I am Director of Marketing for everything related to NFC and wireless charging at National Instruments.
Hi everyone, I'm Clement, working for NI as Business Development Manager for NFC and wireless charging. During this presentation, feel free to ask questions using the chat window. We will make sure we answer it as long as we progress into the presentation.
That's a great point, Clement. So now I would say, let's just get started.
Before to jump into the NFC Forum CR12, let's take a first look on what is the NFC technology and how it is standardized. NFC stands for Near Field Communication. It is a generic name for what we can call the contactless smart card technology. This is a technology you are already using every day for various applications such as transportation, access control to buildings or cars, payment, or identity documents. NFC is a 13.56 MHz technology, meaning it is a low-power contactless communication technology. The different products such as NFC devices like mobile phones or wearables, NFC tags and readers will be communicating within a short range up to 10 centimeters. The standardization bodies such as EMVCO, NFC Forum or ISO 14443 are defining some specifications for various applications. The specifications will ensure the interoperability between the different products and a backward compatibility with existing contactless technologies such as payment cards or RFID transportation tickets. The specifications are also defining the test requirements and the test cases to make sure that the different products will fit into the specification. NFC is not all about contactless communication. The NFC Forum is also working on a future specification for wireless charging technology. Let's have a look on how NFC works. NFC is an inductive coupled RFID system where a reader will generate an RF magnetic field to power up a card and send some data. The card will use this energy to answer to the reader. It makes NFC a very special technology because the card or the NFC device doesn't need to have a battery to be able to enter into the contactless communication. The same principles are occurring where two NFC devices are discussing, and one of the devices will be acting as a card and the other one will be acting as a reader. Let's have a look on how the technology is standardized. ISO and GIS specification define the generic principle for contactless communication. The specifications were initially defined for terminal to card communication, excluding the device communication. These specifications are defining how to formulate data, how to exchange data in a reliable manner, and were not defined having a specific use case in mind. There is no real certification program in place, but test laboratories may still perform test services to ensure the product quality. Following the increasing adoption of contactless smart card, business-oriented standard organizations appeared and decided to use the same technology to enable added value services such as payment, transportation, access control, or Bluetooth pairing. Interoperability became a challenge to ensure the success of the implementation and guarantee the customer satisfaction and pave the way for revenue generation. There was not a necessity to completely change the technology, but more a necessity to reconcile the business-specific needs. The solution was to reuse the work done by the ISO and the GIS working groups, reuse the big principle of this technology, and define specific certification programs that address the specific functional needs. For example, the payment scheme EMVCO, standing for Europay, MasterCard, Visa and Co., decided that contactless smart card would be one of the interfaces to enable cashless payment. They leverage the ISO 14443 interface for the communication, adapt it to their own application, and add some specific IDs, such as reading distance, where the terminal, cards, and devices are tested within an operating volume. On the same principle, the NFC Forum is an international consortium formed in 2004 by Sony and NXP. The NFC Forum is defining NFC for technologies that are not contactless smart cards. There are more than 130 members from various industries, such as consumer electronics, semiconductors, automotive, transportation, or test laboratories and test tools. The main activities for the NFC Forum are promote the usage of the NFC technology and run a conformance program in order to deliver their stamp called the N mark. To do so, the NFC Forum maintains a set of system specification. We will, for example, find the analog specification defining the over-the-air interface, the digital specification, as well as the test requirement. They administrate a network of certification laboratories that are unable to perform the actual conformance testing and make sure of the product quality. In other words, there is a strong link between the work achieved by ISO 14443 and the application-oriented protocol such as EMVCO, reusing this technology for payment, CEN, reusing the same technology for public transportation, or NFC Forum, reusing this technology for non-smart card form factors. The industry-oriented consortium, such as GCF for smartphone, Car Connectivity Consortium, which is relying on the NFC Forum work to define the digital key specification, or the Wireless Power Consortium, relying on the NFC Forum adopted packet format for the future communication channel of the wireless products, are also having a strong link with NFC Forum and its specification.
Thank you, Clément. So now, let's take a look at the NFC Forum CR12 test specification. What is the background behind this NFC Forum CR12 specification? It comes, for example, from the absolute necessity to decrease the number of interoperability issues on the field. NFC, as you know, is not a closed ecosystem, and new NFC-enabled devices are released on the market every day. So no matter what the use case is, it just has got to work. In order to achieve this, the test spec needs to be more representative of the conditions the NFC device will encounter in the real world. This will naturally have an impact on the test conditions that will be applied during the test sessions. The NFC Forum has also introduced a whole new way of communicating over NFC, which is the active mode. This will enable a whole new generation of exciting new test cases based on NFC, but naturally, this has got to be tested. Furthermore, the vital necessity to avoid discrepancy between standards in order to ensure a successful user experience. For instance, 2 years ago, EMVCO took into consideration the fact that payment was not only a matter of plastic cards anymore, but it was a matter of mobile phone, wearables, tokens, and adapted their reference test antenna accordingly. Similarly, the NFC Forum goes in the direction of EMVCO with the CR12, and we will document this in the coming slides. The vital importance of avoiding discrepancies between test standards can be illustrated this way. A smartphone concentrates most of the NFC use cases today. It is used for transportation, payment, access control, and many other use cases. It needs to be compliant with all the related standards, like EMVCO, the NFC Forum, or the CEN TS16794, just to name a few. However, inside the smartphone, when you think about it, the circuitry to enable NFC is not duplicated depending on the number of use cases. There is only one NFC component, one NFC antenna. Therefore, the different standard organizations need to find ways to ensure alignment, while preserving, of course, the specificities of the application they are covering. All of this is perfectly reflected in the work achieved by the NFC Forum over the last years. if we look at the previous specification released by the NFC Forum, for example the CR12, we can note that the motto behind its design was to decrease interoperability issues already seen on the field at that time between mobile phone and readers, which were traditionally governed by the ISO 14443 and the ISO 18092 specification. 1 year later, the NFC Forum introduced with the CR11 spec version the certification program for the NFC tags in order to enhance the user experience based on this use case. Furthermore, they also introduced the support of the ISO 15693 communication in order also to remove discrepancies with the specification. And as we are going to see in a few minutes, the goal of the CR12 release from the NFC Forum, it is clearly to decrease the number of differences with the ISO 14443 and EMVCo requirements. Let's begin our journey in the CR12 specification with analog testing considerations. The NFC Forum reference kit is still comprised of 3 polar antenna and 3 listeners which are tuned at 30.56 MHz. The size of the coil, of course, is different in all of those antenna to make sure that the device under test will be able to successfully interact with counterparts equipped with all sizes of antenna. Now, the NFC Forum is introducing 3 additional reference listener antenna tuned at 16 MHz, just like, you guessed, the traditional EMVCo reference PICC antenna. You can already see a confirmation of what we were explaining previously. The standards are trying to remove their incompatibilities. The H-shaped antenna was already present in the previous versions of the standard, but its impact drastically increases with the CR12 test specification, as we will see in a few moments. National Instruments add a variety of additional accessories to make the user experience even better. In addition to the well-documented robot arm, which is necessary to position the antenna at the right places during the analog testing, we propose to our users innovative products, such as the automated jumper selector that allows to select on listener antenna a specific load without any human intervention, or the antenna positioning tool, which helps to ensure accuracy in the antenna positioning during the setup phase, hence improving the overall test measurement accuracy. Regarding the test of the DUT in the polling mode, the waveform measurements are drastically changed. First, the NFC Forum is standardizing the usage of the H-shaped coil in order to pick up the polar signal coming from the DUT. The listener antenna is still present, but only to load the field of the polar. It is not used anymore to pick up the polar signal. Then, the NFC Forum has added the usage of the 3 new reference listener antenna, the one which are tuned at 16 MHz, to check the polar signal. That pretty much potentially doubles the number of measurements to do on the polar. This is, however, mitigated by the usage of only 1 load during the measurement. This is the one at 820 ohm. While we are doing all of those polar signal capture, we are now asked to perform ringing and monotonicity measurement, just like when doing EMVCo PCD test. The type V polar sensitivity tests are also enhanced, following methods that are close from the way of doing things in ISO 10373 Part 7. Then, the active communication mode tests are enhanced, especially the anti-collision check, which is actually quite important to get this functionality going, with timing measurement on the rising and falling edges of the DUT. And finally, when inspecting the reset signal of a polar, we now have to do a DFT at 13.56 MHz to assess the value of this noise. On the other side, when testing the DUT in the listening mode, the NFC Forum has introduced a test that could be classified as potentially destructive, in which we will need to submit the DUT to a field of 12 ampere per meter for several minutes, and the DUT will need to survive this. This is, at least in principle, a copy and paste of a similar test in the ISO 10373 Part 6, which is called the alternating magnetic field. Then, the number of polar waveform combinations also increases to reflect more real-life signal than the DUT will encounter once on the field. This is great to decrease the number of interoperability issues on the field. And finally, the NFC Forum decreases the number of positions that need to be performed for loading effect measurement. as it has narrowed down the number of positions to the one which are at the z=0 elevation. This closes the section dedicated to analog testing. In order to understand what those additions and improvements mean in terms of test cases amount, we can look at this table right here. We see that the number of test cases on the first line has continuously been growing, at least for the 3 last releases. This is a natural consequence of a test specification which is alive and which adds new test items to cope with new use cases. The overall number of test positions follows mechanically the same trend, as a DUT which embeds the maximum number of NFC features will be submitted to roughly 4,000 different tests only for the analog part. Now, if we move from analog testing and look at digital protocol testing, we can see that the CR12 test spec brings significant improvement. First, if we look at polo test, the NFC Forum goes deeper into the type V, so ISO 15693, as now timings, anti-collision, and protocol are going to be tested. Then, the tag operation section of the digital protocol has been rewritten and improved. This is a clear sign of the importance that the NFC Forum gives to the phone-to-tag use cases. The Bluetooth pairing is one of them, for example. The tag type 5, so ISO 15693 support has been introduced, while the tag type 1, so the InnoVision Topaz one, has been placed into optional support state. Then, of course, and this is valid for both polar and listener modes, some tests related to the active load modulation handling of the DUT have been introduced, as well as the support of DUTs that have a larger I/O buffer size with the support of extended FSC and FSD values. You can tell just by looking at the number of test cases that the digital protocol scene is very much alive, as the number of test cases from the former version of the test spec, so CR11.1, to the number of test cases which are in the future spec CR12 has increased by 50%. If we look at the future, we already know that there is going to be a CR12.1 spec update envisioned for the beginning of 2021, but will only bring slight modifications to the CR12 test plan. We are extremely interested in looking what's going to happen with the CR13, which we believe is going to be out by end of 2021, and which we know is going to bring the concept of wireless charging over NFC. It's called WLC in the NFC Forum documentation. I am sure many of you have already heard of wireless charging in the past, and maybe more specifically about the Qi technology, which is embedded today in the vast majority of the phone. The NFC Forum is working on its own flavor of wireless charging, which is not set to enter into competition with Qi, but rather complement it, as the use cases are going to be different. Wireless charging over NFC, or WLC, will target small devices that are not really greedy in terms of power, but will deliver power in the range of a few watts, when Qi deliver up to 15 watts today, and actually maybe even more tomorrow. The target could be any type of hearing aid or wearable devices who could not accept the type of antenna that are used for Qi power transmission because of their size. There will be many advantages for device manufacturers to implement this, as this will remove the need to use connectors, which are always a weakness point, as they can get damaged or rusty over the time, and there will be an instant access to the various NFC polar already in the field as source of power, starting by actually mobile phone, which can work in the polar mode. Now, let us walk you through quickly through the NI offering in terms of NFC test tools.
Thank you, Stéphane. It is very great to hear how NFC Forum is defining the future of the contactless technology and working on new applications such as NFC wireless charging. Let's have a look on how NI can help NFC products developers to ensure their product quality and shorter their time to market.
NI has a dedicated product range for NFC testing, able to solve the engineer challenge at each step of the product lifecycle. It starts with the contactless test station, also called CTS. So this tool is used for conformance testing, meaning it will be able to run all the test cases defined by a specification, such as NFC Forum Analog or NFC Forum Digital. The very same tool is used by NFC Forum Certification Lab to provide certification on product. The MP500 TCL3 is the equipment used for characterization, so verification and validation testing. This tool offers a deep level of customization to run different test sessions, such as repeatability or integration test. Interoperability issues can still happen on the field, and here the MP007 is a debug tool. So this is a protocol analyzer which will spy the communication between two NFC devices and help you to find out where is the issue coming from. And for mass production testing and to ensure the quality of your product before you deliver it to your customers, we propose the MP500 PT1, which is able to run both analog and digital testing on production line within a very few seconds.
Dear attendees, thank you for staying with us until this conclusion. Now, the promise of this webinar, the 10 things we want you to know about NFC Forum and its CR12 spec release. First thing is that NFC stands for Near Field Communication. This is a contactless communication technology standardized by different organizations. It can be EMVCO, the NFC Forum, ISO, GCF, many of them. Then, number two, a device that embeds the NFC technology may need to follow different standards depending on the use case that it's going to be used for. Some devices are actually used for several of the use cases, and this is where it gets complicated with the point number 3, is that there can be discrepancies between the requirement of the different standardization committees which need to be followed by the DOT. And at the end of the day, it makes it very difficult for the development engineers to make a product that does it all. It can also have an impact on the adoption of the NFC technology by the consumer. However, and that's number 4, the NFC Forum with the new CR12 test specification helps the ecosystem to address the discrepancies. Let's keep in mind that other standardization groups are doing similar tasks at the same time. If we look at the analog testing side, the CR12 adds specification about 3 new listener antenna to the arsenal of reference antenna in order to get closer from what EMVCO does. Number 6, also on the analog side, is that the CR12 mandates that from now on it is the H-shaped coil which is used to pick up the polar signal and not the listener antenna anymore. Number 7, the NFC Forum wants to support new use cases and introduces the active mode transmission, which is going to be the pavement for the way to have new use cases defined around NFC. If we look on the digital side, the NFC Forum has completely reinvented the way the digital protocol tag operation testing is performed in order to ensure a satisfying experience to the user when he is using a mobile phone to access a tag. Number 9, the NFC Forum is going to introduce wireless charging as part of the upcoming CR13 spec update, which is going to be a very exciting new use case for the NFC technology. And number 10, National Instrument has a full range of test equipment, including a full coverage of the NFC Forum CR12, and will release a solution which is going to be certified by the NFC Forum in the coming weeks.
We are reaching the end of the session. Thanks everyone for your participation to this seminar. Feel free to reach out to us if you are looking to know more about the technology or the NI test solutions for NFC. We invite you to take 5 minutes to give us feedback on this session on a survey that will be displayed in the same platform, and we are looking forward to hear from you soon.
Thank you everyone, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.